Hi, my name is Nathan Baduma, and today I'll be going over evolution as a core concept in biology. Just to provide some background, diversity is the hallmark of life, and today there are almost 2 million varied different species that have been named and identified by researchers, and some estimate that the total number of species actually ranges from around 10 million to 100 million species in the world. But how are researchers to make sense of this variety? One common approach, at least taken today, is called classification, or the grouping of species by similarities. On this slide, I'll give a brief overview of the field of grouping species, specifically taxonomy. Taxonomy is important because it's the study of naming and classifying species. Taxonomy is important because it formalizes an ordering of species, which scientists can then use to look at species that are closely related. And they're often sorted by category. And this is important because species can be compared by various characteristics. The three broad domains of life include bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, and I'll be going over the similarities and differences of each of these three domains. Bacteria, the first domain, is actually one of the most diverse and widespread class of domains, and also of prokaryotes, which are cells that don't contain a nucleus and just have their DNA kind of centered in a small region called a nucleoid. Archaea are also prokaryotes, but less widespread than bacteria, and many of the archaea live in extreme environments on Earth, such as boiling hot springs and very salty lakes. Eukarya, the third class of organisms which we are probably most familiar with, are made of organisms with cells that contain nuclei. The main kingdoms in the domain Eukarya are Plantae, Fungi, Protista, and Animalia. The three main kingdoms, Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia, are mainly distinguished by their modes of nutrition. In order to make sense of it all, Charles Darwin, one of the most famous biological researchers of all time, came up with the theory of natural selection. And during his time, he was looking at the history of life, and it was documented as fossils spanning billions of years old. And in 1859, after much observation of currently living species and fossils, Darwin published a book, and his concept of evolution became known as Darwinism. And there were two main points of Darwinism. The first being contemporary species arose from a succession of ancestors, and Darwin supported this concept with much background evidence. Essentially, the succession of ancestors was termed descent with modification, and this was important because it explained the paradox of life's unity and diversity, how species were so different but yet very similar at the same time, because they all evolved from one single ancestral species and then diverged. Natural selection was Darwin's main second point, and it provided the mechanism for above. And he made this claim off of three main bases. The traits in a population usually vary. The population can produce more offspring than the environment can actually sustain, and a species usually suits its environment. As a result, over time, species that were better suited to their environment, or essentially had more advantageous traits, were able to beat out the other offspring that had less advantageous traits, and essentially the population evolved to suit the environment. I hope this video explained evolution as the core theme in biology. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.